live. Here we go.
Okay, good.
Oh,
Let's see. The stream will not be recorded on StreamYard. You will record upgrade plan. So I'm hoping it's going to. Let me refresh my YouTube page here and just make sure it's kind of taking it. And I'll monitor the chat to make sure nobody's cussing, swearing us out, or whatever. It's YouTube. You never know what you're gonna run into.
does that mean we can't cuss and swear?
Not on Sunday.
Something really strikes your fancy, I guess. We'll
Tomorrow
just
you can.
And,
Tomorrow. Yeah, it's true. It's the
Well,
Sabbath today, right?
I've seen Nathan
yeah, we'll keep this going till midnight, and then once that strikes 12,
I've seen him
Sorry,
lug a
we're
40
talking
pound cooler up like a 60-degree incline hill and then
Yeah, what
down the
kind
other
of
side of the
fool would do
mountain. That was
that?
the most miserable hike I've ever been on. And even then, I can't remember you swearing. So,
I hope you keep on. I hope you have that cooler still and never let it go.
wait, did we successfully bring it back?
get it
Because
autographed.
Oh yes, we did the whole thing. I wanted to leave it in the woods, and you're like, no, like it'll kill a dolphin someday or something.
yeah, like I have a false memory though of us leaving it in the woods. So stupid.
That's such a good trip.
It just goes to show though, like that lake that we went to, it looked good on a map, but it wasn't. I feel like I feel like there were some squatchy stuff kind of around, but it really wasn't necessarily in the path of any squatchy stuff per se. Like up on are we live?
We are.
Up on the hill, and this is up in Monte Cristo.
I'm trying to
This is
verify that. Can you verify that? Okay.
I'm watching it.
so up in this is up in Monte Cristo.
Okay, great.
Feedback.
That was that was me. Go on, I stopped it.
Okay. So yeah, up on the hill there. So this is Christmas Meadows in where is it? In Uinta Mountains. And there's been freaking hundreds of Sasquatch encounters in Christmas Meadows. It's infamous. It's ubiquitous. It's Sasquatch is ubiquitous in that area. Anyway, so we go there. We hike up a brutal, steep ridge, and then
Very
when
brutal.
we're up on the ridge is a whole different type of forest. It's its own little world up there that people don't really go up because it kind of plateaus out for a time. And there's some beautiful forests, and that's where that's where the Sasquatch stuff was. It actually reminded me of the highlands up there, really high, Nate. Those when you get up really high, like above the alpine, sometimes there's those meadows and they're really beautiful, and there's like big open prairies, and it reminds me of Tony Grove up there. Anyway, that's the only place that we saw some squatchy stuff, and then maybe in another place, but it was so still and so quiet. That was the most still place I think I've been in the past decade. Anyway,
actually, there was an encounter up there. Rex, tell him about the singing Sasquatch up there at the yurt.
Yeah, I think he knows about the yurts. There's Mark went from that route, and there's a lady who I guess they stayed at a yurt, and that evening, the closest thing she could describe it as was a Sasquatch that was doing. How do the people in Mongolia sing, kind of like throat singing?
The Tuvan throat singing. Yeah.
Throat singing.
And it sounded like it was doing that just super loud, walking up the mountain and right at the level of her head, which she knew must have been like 9 feet, and she was scattered out of her mind. So that kind of happened up there, not that far from there. And anyway, I think it was just probably passing through because it said it was just walking along. It finally went off in the distance. But that's one of them. There's other ones. There's the Boy Scouts, the Hinkley Ranch. They between there and the lake you're at, Scow Lake, they saw a Sasquatch, and so that's just a couple. And some of the other, I could go through other ones, but yeah, it seems like some of the Uintas, it's not quite squatchy in the way that the Wasatch is all the time because the trees the big ones always die, That's my anyway because of the bark
Well, it's
beetles.
like, you know, even in the Uintas, you have to find the squatchy places.
Well, yeah,
And
if you
and
want to
it's
know where
not
they're
everywhere.
living, literally,
Yeah, like
bedding
there's
down.
so many places, there's so many times when you think, oh my gosh, this I have in this valley. If I go to this valley, it looks really squatchy on a map. And if I go to the valley, I'm surely gonna find something. But then you go there and it's just empty and there's just nothing there. And you'll go and you'll be disappointed like 5, 6 times maybe. But on the seventh time, you're destined at some point to finally find like a really squatchy place, and that's where you're gonna have your encounters. But Scow Lake, it was I expected it to be a lot more squatchy, but
Well,
yeah.
the one place, the wallow we found was actually a pretty good one. It had some really interesting big structures in it. But like you said, it wasn't like that big. We didn't see a whole lot of other sign. We did find a Spanish mine up there though. I thought that was cool. And the
You did?
structures
I didn't know
were
about that.
were right next to the mine. You remember that?
What? Tell me the story. It will come back to me.
Yeah, we were walking up there, and there it has to be a Spanish mine because there's nobody else that would have gone up there. And it was old and it had been partially caved in, and it was right before the wallow, like maybe, I don't know, less than 50 yards away.
So it was up on top of the
Yeah.
ridge.
Uh-huh. And so
Okay.
that was kind of cool, but I thought it was interesting that the wallow was like right next to it. Yeah, but it was cool. It had big tree structures and it was neat. The best thing about that whole trip though is that I got Rio to drink like a gallon of bug water.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Bug water.
You guys
What's that?
remember the
Oh yeah,
text?
the filtered. He called it holy water or something like that.
Yeah, he had this amazing filter that he's like, oh my gosh, this is so good, dude. It gets everything out, bro. Drink up, drink up. And so there's these giant leeches in the water, and there's all sorts of other
Straight out of
weird
the lake.
animals in the water. And so we drink this perfectly clean water. The next morning we look in it, there's just swimmers everywhere.
But he
Oh, well.
filtered it.
I never
What are you
got
doing?
sick though, did you?
Oh no, wait. You used
I don't think I got
used
sick.
did you use
I
those
can't
tablets
remember.
for disinfecting instead of filtering it or something? Or?
Yeah,
Oh,
something like that.
I used the
Oh, okay.
Steri wand or the Steri pen, that's what they're called.
Oh,
Yeah.
the light. Okay. No wonder
I
they were
think
still
it
crawling
killed
around.
all the stuff that would cause disease. We didn't get sick, but we did swallow a bunch of live bugs, I'm sure.
It only
Extra
killed the wicked bugs. The righteous bugs stayed after.
And they're
They helped.
probably still in you now.
So can I tell you guys
Need a
about a
parasite cleanse
UFO?
now.
I want to tell you about a UFO sighting that I had. Are we only
Okay.
going to talk about
And
Sasquatch,
then
or are
we're
we going to
gonna
talk about?
go. I think we'll go around the room and just kind of each person just give a quick synopsis of how you've been doing and stuff like that. I mean, don't get too personal because this is live stream, but yeah, go Rio. Sorry.
I'm gonna get
In
so
fact,
personal.
you'll be first. Yeah, after the
Me?
your story. Go. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay. Well, so I just want to say this is my little studio that I make, and I'm kind of trying to do a little podcast right now. So that's how I'm doing. A
So it's
podcast
not a
about
Western like bar or something. It looks. That's what Nathan was. Anyway, sorry. I won't
a
interrupt anymore.
Western what?
Yeah,
A
it looks
Western.
like you're at Texas
He thought it was a
Roadhouse.
Western bar, like
Oh, yeah.
you're a bartender. No, it's like
I just
okay.
feel
Anyway,
like I feel like a wood background is pretty safe.
I can't see it well
so
enough. I just see that blue light up there, or whatever it is.
anyway, I was out in my driveway a couple days ago, and it was on Tuesday of last week. Actually, it was 9:22 p.m. And I look up, and I'm not a person that ever sees UFOs. Okay, so this was very exciting for me. I see one tiny little thing zipping along, so I think it's a shooting star, but it doesn't have a tail. And then it cocks direction, slightly adjusts direction at a different angle, and it just goes boom, just it covered the entire sky in like 2.5 seconds, probably, or 3 seconds. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I guess it could be a satellite, but that was like super fast. And then about 30 seconds later, right above me, this soft teal fleet. So there's probably 7 or 8 craft. They were tiny little triangles of soft teal light So it was almost like they were behind saran wrap or something. They were soft and blurry, like they were behind cloud cover, but there wasn't really any clouds in the sky. It was like, so it was interesting that they were kind of fuzzy like that, but they were tiny triangles, but they were in a wedge formation, and they just zipped along at the exact same speed, and they cocked a little bit. They veered a little bit off to the right and zipped and kept zipping. But they didn't slow down when they turned. They didn't slow down. They just went da da. It was just like a pool, a pool ball or something bouncing off. Anyway, it was incredible. It was really cool. And I would have thought that the one that was in a V shape, the second thing that I saw, I would have thought that was a single craft. But as it was going, the left light on the left flank kind of got off track, and it was no longer in uniform with the rest of them. But it was still going at the same speed, but it was just kind of floating off to the left by itself. So that tells me that they were individual, like, I guess, craft instead of just one object. But that was really crazy. That was and it happened perfectly clear. My kids were there. My kids saw it, so it was interesting. And
When was that?
that was last Tuesday. Not this Tuesday prior, but the Tuesday past, last week at 9:22 p.m. in Ogden. And it went north from Hill Air Force Base over the mountain, the Ben Lomond.
I've
And it
heard
was
of
so
a lot
fast.
of I've heard a lot of UFO sightings around that time for some reason. I mean, people online are speculating that had to do with the eclipse, but there is a lot of people seeing UFOs on Monday and Tuesday.
I go talk to my mom about it, and she goes, "Oh, honey, they're going to start flying lower so people can see them now." And I'm like, I hope you're right, Mom. My mom's kind of a hippie. My mom believes that there's going to be all these weird stuff that happens. I love her. She's like a true flower child from the 60s. So, all right, that's how I'm doing. We can go on to Nate or whatever.
So that was near the eclipse time then, right? Yeah.
Day after, anyway.
I guess. Yeah.
Any other interesting? Yeah, that was pretty interesting. So
There's a ton of videos
I
coming
guess
out on real other services that are showing where people were out there taking a video of the sun, and they catch other things flying behind, or off to the sides. There's a lot of UFO videos that are popping up right now that people are just happen to catch for whatever reason. Who knows how many of them are real, but they seem to be popping.
There's a lot of Nibiru photos too I've seen. Or people claim that, yeah, they seem Nibiru.
It's still getting closer. Huh?
It's coming, you guys. Watch out.
Well, I guess in my circle thing, Nathan Johns is up next, but whomever.
I'm next. All right.
Sure.
Things have been going good. I got let's see, it was in November's when I got back, but I took about a month. And
where'd you go?
What's that?
Where?
Where'd
you go?
We took about a month, and we went to Nepal. Me, my dad, my sister-in-law, and brother, and we did a trekking trip to Everest Base Camp, which was really cool. Yeah, it was great.
How high was that?
Tough hike.
Base camp is about 17 something.
Wow.
The highest we got, though, because I mean, Everest Base Camp, it's a cool, emotional, meaningful experience to be there. But it's really not all that much. I mean, it's beautiful, but compared to other places, it's not all that much to look at. You can't see Everest even from the base camp. And there wasn't people in the base camp because they only climb in the spring, and we came in the fall. So it was cool to be there, but the coolest place was after base camp. We got to climb this hill next to the worst hotel in the world. I guess they call them tea houses. Oh, it was so bad. Oh, so bad. And I got
is that where you got the food poisoning?
Oh, I got violently ill there and spent 4 hours on like the worst toilet you could imagine. And that, okay, here's an interesting tangent. Like the way that you flush the toilets there, like if they have Western toilets, you're lucky because not everywhere does. Like usually it's those squatting toilets, but a lot of the tea houses, we requested Western toilets, so they brought us to those tea houses. But this tea house is called Gorgashep, and they don't have flushing toilets there. So what they do is they have toilets with plumbing and stuff, but they have like a big like 50-gallon drum next to the toilets, and then they have like a coffee can that you just fill it full of water and you dump it in the hole and it flushes the toilet.
Yeah.
Well, at this one, it's so high, and inside, and they don't have any heating in these tea houses. So inside, it was in the negative degrees, I'm sure, Fahrenheit.
Oh,
And
gosh.
and so
Mhm.
on the big barrels, they would hang like a sledgehammer and a coffee can. So in the night, you could break the ice and scoop out the water and dump it down the toilet.
I guess
Yeah.
that works, kind of.
Hey,
Yeah.
did you really like the food in Nepal?
I like the yeah, for the most part until it got me sick, but the food was actually really good.
Wasn't it like rice and curry all the time?
Yeah, and vegetables. They eat very healthy. Like everything is very vegan. You know, they're very like pretty much everywhere in the Himalayas, I'm told it's illegal to kill animals. That
Wow.
it doesn't, because they're Buddhists and they believe in reincarnation and being kind to all animals, whatever. They're okay though if you import meat.
Oh.
So I guess they let other people do their dirty work, but they aren't allowed to kill. So they don't. So meat, they do serve meat at some of the houses, but we were counseled not to ever order it because there's not good refrigeration up there, and so you're just asking for trouble. So yeah, it's all plant based. I don't eat meat anyway, but it would have been hard to eat meat if I wanted to up there, and dairy. There's not even a ton of dairy. Yeah.
Well, that explains their health if they're not eating meat or dairy and they're just eating lots of rice and vegetables and curry all the time.
Yeah. And the people of Nepal are so nice, like the nicest people I've ever met. The city that we spent the most time in, at least at length, was Kathmandu. It's like their capital city. And it's a really dirty, dusty city, not very many paved roads. It reminded me a lot of like Tijuana in like the 90s with like I don't know, with like an Indian flair, because there's a lot of really old Indian buildings around. But it's very similar to Tijuana. And we were kind of like expecting it to be like Tijuana. Like you walk down the wrong alleyway and you'll wind up with your head cut off. But like we talked to the locals there and we're like, is there places we shouldn't go after dark or anytime? And they're like, no, what are you talking about? Like, well, what about crime? They're like, which crime? It's like nobody, like crime isn't a thing there. And they don't even have a big military or a big police presence or anything. People are just like really honest and happy there. It's really cool. Yeah, I didn't know there were really places like that existed with people, packed together like that. But yeah, as part of my trip, we went to a place called Komjong, which is on the way up to Everest. And there, we were told by our guide that there is a Yeti scalp. That the monastery, it's like one of their sacred relics that they keep on display. I think it only recently became holy, and I'll show you why here in a second. Let's see. How do I see if I can share my screen?
Yeah, just present and share screen.
Okay.
It should work.
Oh. It's telling me. Okay. I'm going to have to quit and come back in. Why doesn't somebody else do it and you can go back to me? It's going to make me, I got to redo a preference, and it tells me I have to close down the program or close Chrome. So I'll be right back.
Okay. Yep. Well, I guess he's leaving. So Mark's next in the circle I have in my screen here. I know you've done a couple visits to places in Mexican Mountain, and anyway, go ahead. I think you did Dinosaur National Monument, and you're always seems like squatching year round almost, because you have anyway.
Well, I went out. I went out with Daryl Wilson about 2 weeks ago. There was a gal that had a daytime sighting over here in La Pointe in 1st of October, and it was in the daytime. She was coming home from work, and it's kind of flat. There's no trees. She came over a hill, and there was a Bigfoot kind of crouched behind the sagebrush. She didn't know what it was at first, so she stopped her car, and the thing stood up, and it was about 8 feet tall, and it walked right in front of her car about 100 feet, and then it went down this drainage on the other side. So we met her and her husband and this Ute Indian gal that's had experiences up there. And we spent about 2 hours with them, and she shows exactly where it crossed over, what it looked like, and everything. And it's amazing. It happened at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and she's had really good description of it. It didn't even look at her; it just walked right, looked straight ahead, and walked right across the road, and then it went down this ditch. She sat in the car just shaking. She didn't know what to do. She never really believed in him before, and she just stood there in the car and just shaking. And then she went home and told her husband about it. But anyway, we were there. That was about 2 weeks ago, and then last week I went to Mexican Mountain, which is northern part of San Rafael Swell, and there was a sighting there by a pilot. There's a bush plane runway in there called Mexican Mountain Runway. If you look it up on Google, you can they actually have live videos of planes coming in and taking off from this runway. And it was created back in the 70s by an oil company. But anyway, there was a pilot. I think I saw it on Bigfoot Case Files is where I heard about it, and a couple of weeks ago. And the guy was flying a plane from Moab up to Price, and he was testing out a plane, and it was starting to cut out. And so he had to land the thing, and it was in the wintertime. And so he came down to Mexican Mountain Airstrip, which is just a gravel road, quarter-mile strip and along the San Rafael River in some old cottonwoods. And so he, as he was coming down, he saw this big figure walking down the edge of the road. He thought it was a human, but he thought, boy, sure is awfully big, and it has one color. So he dropped his plane down. He goes, I don't know what it is, but it's not human. So he went on ahead the next 2 miles and landed his plane. And that night, the thing harassed him the whole night while he was around the fire trying to keep warm, until he called the Green River area to have him come pick him up. Well, they didn't come and get him until the next morning. And so this Sasquatch was screaming and making all kinds of racket. So I went in there for that reason. It's about a 2.5, 3 mile hike from the end of the road. It's about a 12-mile road. From where the bridge that goes into San Rafael, you make a left, and it's called Mexican Mountain Road. You go on that road 12 miles, and then there's a trailhead there. And it took me the second day to find this airstrip. There's no indication it's there. You just have to know about it. So I spent 3 days in there hiking around and didn't see any Bigfoot signs. Saw lots of there was a bunch of black Angus in there, and there were tracks and poop everywhere, so I couldn't see much. I saw 1 or 2 old tree leans, probably 20, 30 years old. But there was beaver sign for miles along the San Rafael River. I mean, there was hundreds and hundreds of cottonwood trees that were bitten off and destroyed. But I didn't really see any fresh beaver sign. I saw 1 or 2 trees, but looked like really old trees that were cut down. So maybe the Sasquatch wiped them out. I don't know, but there was miles and miles of trees knocked over by beaver. So It was about 50 degrees at night and about 75 in the daytime. Really nice for camping. I only saw 2 other hikers in 3 days. Another couple was in there. I saw one plane land when I was just leaving. They had a tent there. They camped overnight and they were going to fly out in the morning. But I was going to go over to Colorado this week, but my tires didn't come from my truck. And they finally came yesterday, so I haven't been able to go to Colorado yet to Dinosaur National Monument. I was going to spend about 3 or 4 days over there. There's been some sightings over there, and I've seen some sign over there too along the Yampa River.
Really? That's really dry up there. I'm surprised.
Yeah, is it? I was gonna say, is there forest or what?
You mean Mexican Mountain or the Yampa River?
Yappa.
Probably both.
Yeah.
They're both really dry, but I think the Sasquatch come down there in the
winter, I
winter
think they
time.
like that. Yeah.
I think the San Rafael they just pass through. I don't think they really hang out there, but I've heard, I've seen some fresh deer kill down there along the Yampa River a couple of years ago when I went down. It looked like Bigfoot kill. And of course, nobody can drive down there for 6 months. They closed the gates, and so all these elk and deer hang out down there along the Green River, where intersection of the Yampa, and there's no hunting allowed. So I think there has been a sighting down there about 15 years ago. The guy saw a juvenile down there on the rocks climbing around. So I think they come down there in the lower elevation where the deer and elk are during the winter because there's no humans down there.
How long ago was the Mexican Mountain airplane sighting? Just curious. Was it recently?
I think that must have been about 30 years ago, because this guy was retired who told the story, and he said the company he worked for is no longer in existence. Somebody bought him out. So I'm thinking it's quite a
Just
while.
curious.
But that's a wilderness area down there. They got a sign there that says Mexican Mountain Wilderness Area. You can't take any e-bikes in there. You can't take any four-wheelers. But boy, there's sure cows damage everywhere in there.
I think I saw some people kayaking or trying to go navigate the river or something one time. I was in that area, but I'll talk about that when it's my turn.
I think the San Rafael River is probably only about 3 feet deep right now. And I brought my hip waders, but I didn't cross it. I probably could have, but I didn't want to take the chance being by myself. But I'm sure it goes down much shallower than that in the summer, because I could see where cattle had gone in one side and out the other. And I don't think they would do it now with that depth.
Oh,
But it's a pretty muddy river. I don't think there's any fish in there. It's really
that looked kind of
desolate.
chocolate covered, as I remember it.
Yeah, it's really desolate. I did find some really neat box canyons I went into, and anyway, I'm glad I went. It was perfect weather.
Yeah, you offered to let us join you, but I had other things I had to do during the week. But it sounded like it was. I've been down that area once and close to it other times, but anyway.
Well, I went down Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday because the weather was perfect, and then the storm came in Friday, so I didn't. I just wanted to go those 3 days. So.
Well, I guess if nothing else, Todd is up. It's take it away, I guess. And I have your map here. If you want to, reference that, I could share my screen, or however you want to do that.
And I do got my screen sharing working now. If you wanted me to share, is that okay, Todd?
Okay.
In fact, I'll be right back. So go ahead.
Okay. At least I hope it'll work.
And this is the Yeti scalp, I'm thinking.
Yes.
Straight from the monastery.
And are you guys seeing my screen?
Not here yet. Anybody else? Oh, I have to hold on. I have to share it. Add to stage.
Oh, there we go.
That's it. It's like it's a separate person or something.
Oh, okay. Here's a picture of the food
Oops.
we're eating.
Wait a
Oh,
minute.
you can't. Oh, where'd it go?
Sorry, let me try that. Try that again. Sorry, it's sluggish, so I clicked it twice. And okay, here we are. Looks
Okay.
good.
Here's a picture of the food, Rio. Delicious. Anyway, this is the Yeti monastery in Kumjong. They just have this little case with this cool Yeti painting, and then the skull cap is inside, and you can put money in it as donations. I think it costs us about $1.50 US to go see it. But this is what it looked like. I mean, it kind of looks, I don't know what else it would be. It's kind of this dome cone shaped, what looks like a head. I don't know what other kind of body part from an animal it could be, but it kind of looks like it.
Is it sewn together right
No,
there?
no, it's not. It's not. It's just, I think it's just kind of a rotten part where some of the hide is like flaking off, because this thing is old, man. Like the story.
Yeah, this is famous. Gene Kelly stole the hand.
Yeah.
I think.
No, that's a different story. But
oh,
yeah,
well, I thought it was the same creature.
There's it could be the same creature, but there's various parts of Yetis throughout the Himalayas in different monasteries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this one, Josh Gates did a show on it, on his show, whatever it's called, Expedition X or something.
Yeah.
So he went there. My dad is like super into that show, and they made this whole big dramatic thing about how they had to go in, and the locals didn't want them to see it, and they had to like bribe some people to get in. It was this whole big dramatic thing. They charge
they
you
always dramatic, make it overly dramatic in that show. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like anybody can go see it for $1.50.
It's like on the corner in the gas station.
Yeah, like in the actual show, they put the scalp like under lock and key in this cabinet. It's not, but my dad saw it and was like, "Hey, that's from Josh Gates', so I want to get a picture with it."
Yeah, I remember that show. They were like digging this little hole, and they were like freaking out that they found a little shard of something, and they were anyway. It was uncomfortable. It was so like melodramatic. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but
it is good entertainment.
The story we were told, like this scalp is potentially hundreds of years old. It's at least 200, I think, because the mountain villages that are up there, very small communities, each one. And they're, I don't know, some of them are, within a day's walk, usually from each other. And I imagine like everybody's like really closely related within those little communities. And so they have these festivals every year where different villages will come together and just have like a big party, and there's like dancing and religious stuff going on. And it's supposed to be a lot of fun. And it's not even really for tourists. It's just for like the locals. And they've been doing them for hundreds of years. But I guess when they do these events, it's tradition for each community. And I think they switch off on the venue every year. But it's tradition for each community. They have like a chief or something from each village that and they exchange gifts. And on this particular festival day, which happened about 200 years ago, there was some kind of confrontation or disagreement between some of the leaders of the villages, and they left on kind of bad terms. And so when they went to exchange gifts at the end, one village gave the other one, something nice just to be good. But the other village was kind of pissed off. And so what they did is, as an insult, instead of gifting them, some food or some nice prayer flags or something cool, they gifted them this Yeti scalp. And they were so mad. They were so offended by that they were given this stupid Yeti scalp that they kicked it like a football all the way back to their village, which was like miles away. And then they like stuck it in a cupboard, and it was like forever this monument to how big of jerks that other community was. until Westerners found out about it. Like Sir Edmund Hillary found out about it. He was pretty much the first big Westerner, and he told his friends, and pretty soon there was like all these Westerners coming to Nepal just to see this, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is worth money. And so now they charge you $1.50 to see it, and they put it behind glass.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it was Jimmy Stewart that stole the Sasquatch finger bone or something.
Yeah,
Like that.
that's
Not
right.
Gene
Because it
Kelly,
was,
but I can.
it
It
was
took me a while to remember. I was sitting here the whole time trying to remember. Wait, that's not quite right. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a different story. Might have been the same Yeti. I don't know what he got carved up for, but there's not even really a legend around how it died or how they came to get it, other than they were gifted the skull cap as an insult at an event.
Hmm.
Yeah,
The rest of the story, I didn't know any of that part of it.
yeah. But anyway, the rest of the trip was really good too. Saw a lot of beautiful stuff. The highest we ever got was 18,500 feet, and
No.
it's so dry and there's no air up there. You're basically have at the top of that elevation, you have 50% less oxygen than you do at sea level. And so you breathe twice as much, and the air is so cold and so dry that both me and my dad, when we did that hike that night, it was like we wanted to see the sunset up there, so we were out really late. But it was so dry, so cold, and we were pushing ourselves to like beat the sun that we kind of burned our lungs. Like, I don't think my dad is even like fully recovered, and we came back in November. Like it really kind of hurt us, but
Wow.
it was a great trip for us anyway. Otherwise, my sister-in-law on the way up, she got bit by a tick and got a disease called scrub typhoid on like the first day, and her body didn't acclimatize properly, and so by the time we were at about like 16,000 feet, she wasn't doing good. Like I think her oxygen levels at times were dropping into like 25s, which is really low. It's supposed to be like 100% ideally. And so her and my brother, they actually didn't make it to base camp with us. They had to get life flighted out of there.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then with this scrub typhoid, she was in, I mean, I don't think life was ever in danger, but it's just a really bad fever. So she was in the hospital for I think 4 days and 4 nights with just a fever while
Wow.
me and my dad finished the trip. But it was a good adventure and great country. I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have
That's
that photo
crazy.
handy of you and your dad? Like, I think it's when you beat the sunset and you have like the big mountain behind you, and
Oh yeah.
just to show you actually did go to the mountain and not Kathmandu. Or
Sure.
but I
Let's
mean,
see.
I'm sure people believe you, but it's cool to see the photo. I thought it was lots of cool photos, I guess. But
So here's Everest. This is from that really tall climb I was telling you about where we burned our lungs. That's really the best, and I mean virtually only view of Everest you have on the trip. You have to get up on this climb. So that's Everest, one of our only views of the trip. There's me and my dad. Everest is the mountain on the left of that picture above my head. There's a little bird. That thing's like the size of a goose. They had really not a lot of animals, but there were like pretty big birds up there. But here's like the whole valley we were in. You can see the big ice flows. That's actually, I can't remember what that glacier's called that comes out between those two mountains, but that's base camp is at the bottom. And then all the guys who climb Everest, they climb up through that glacier to get to the base camps or the various camps. Let's see. This is a video. Yeah, it's a really short one, but it just shows you the scale.
A circle here without trying not to fall off.
you look tired in it, but anyway.
Dude, that's crazy. This reminds me of a movie that I just watched. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, the mountains up there are just unreal. Like we think our mountains are high here, they're nothing compared to the Himalayas. Yeah, and even this photo, like this video, like maybe comes the closest showing you like the actual scale, but like being there, it's like so much more impressive even.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a great trip.
There's this movie about the rugby team that got a plane crash, you know, in the Andes, and they crashed right in the top of the snow-covered mountains. And the Andes are pretty high too. They're not as high as the Himalayas, but they were just endless snow-capped mountains. They ended up eating each other. You guys know about this story?
No.
Yeah, it's
Nope.
true story.
I have to
It's
research it.
yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, but that's just a random interjection. Continue, Nate.
I mean, I don't know. I have a ton more to say unless you want to see more pictures, but
Were we gonna, Todd? Were we done with you? I feel like I want to know if you've had any paranormal
He's up next.
adventures.
Yeah, who's up next? Let me stop sharing and you can take it over, Todd.
Well, I appreciate you guys inviting me. I haven't done much the last 2 years. I've been focusing on other projects, and I am hoping to get out this year. So it's fun to talk to you guys.
Get out for Sasquatch?
Yeah, get out hiking again.
Only have your interests started to expand into other strange places like mine have, or are they still snugly and comfortably with Sasquatch?
No, my interests have always been all over the place when it comes to that sort of thing. I haven't had anything happen lately.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I say that because I've just become exponentially more interested in aliens. Finally opened up that can of worms, and I dove into the can of worms, and now I'm swimming through the worms. And so I'm thoroughly interested in aliens at this point. And then near-death experiences and ghosts, and then psychic stuff. I'm like into kind of all of it right now. I'm in a phase, but it's pretty fun.
that's good. I think I've been through all those phases at some point. So and I go back to it. So
okay, that's all the intros, Rex. Did you have something? A direction that you wanted to
Well,
go?
I think Todd was gonna do a little more, maybe, or I don't know.
No, I don't
guess.
have anything. You can go, Rex.
Okay. My thing is going a little sluggish, but I think that's mainly the video, not the audio part. I don't have a whole lot to add. It's been winter. I haven't done any squatching since last year. I did this weekend. Let me clear my throat. Sorry. Go off to near where Mark was. It's a place in Utah called the Little Grand Canyon. And if you go on Google Earth or Google Maps, it's just type in the Wedge Overlook, and that's where I was yesterday. Went with a few guys, and we just dressed up as cowboys. I have like a collection of some different old Western wear, and so we just kind of did that at the right time of day where it's good light, and still we can get more people to go, but you can't get people to do things sometimes. I'm a member in my ward, and a lot of the singles people just don't want to do anything like that. But anyway, yeah, so we that was kind of fun to do. I've been to that overlook probably 3, 4 times. There's another overlook that's even better than that one, but that one requires some more hiking, and to try to get more people to go out, I opted for the easier access one where you just step out of the car and there it is. But so that's something recent. I thought we might mention about the Sasquatch Chronicles that just aired when Wes Germer it was interviewing the guy up Provo Canyon. Looks like we got 9 viewers over on YouTube. That's more than we had earlier. But so
9
who wants to
viewers.
take that? Maybe I know Todd had a map. Let me share my screen maybe, and Todd can kind of because I got the Google his. Let me back up. So Todd has a map that's pretty extensive, I think, that has sightings in Utah, and he just let me use it because I guess he keeps it at his computer at work. I guess he's doing that while the boss isn't looking. I'm just joking. No, but you've sent me the file, and so I downloaded it here. And let me pull up my screen, and I'll present that and let you kind of. Did everybody get to listen to that Sasquatch, Chronicles episode, or I don't know if everybody had. It's a long, so
I'm not
You-
sure.
you're
sorry, my
just-
screen is going a little bit sluggish.
I'm not sure I listened
What?
to it, guys. So if someone wants to do a
What?
brief recap of it.
So we're talking
Okay.
about the most episode from last week.
Yep.
No, I didn't watch it.
Let's see, I'm going to
Yeah, I
share
didn't
screen. The super short version is the guy is renting a mobile home up between Deer Creek Reservoir and Provo Canyon. And sorry, I'm looking at my screen here. I'm a little bit preoccupied. Did you want to mention more about that? And basically, he has all these things that are happening. The Sasquatch get more bold, and they're like chomping its mouth, and you can hear the noise right at the door. And the cat's going crazy, and the neighbor who he's renting from is just kind of like doesn't know what to do. He's kind of just anyway. That's a very short version of it, but he finally has to leave, even though he's paid for like 6 months 3 months in advance.
Yeah, it sounds like he's maybe a college age guy that's renting this trailer that's up this canyon up there, and he kind of he had moved away from Utah, and then at this point he had moved back for some reason and was living by himself. The guy he was renting it from was living next door to him, but next door was a fair distance away, and it's up a canyon up there. It started with the typical stuff with bangs on the side of the trailer, just movement around. He had a camera on the inside of his trailer and one on the outside, at least on one side. And eventually he was getting stuff happening every night. And it got to the point where he felt like he was going to be attacked.
Wow.
And I guess the way it ended up is the guy, his landlord had to come save him, showed up and scared a bunch of them away, and they left. And the younger guy that was renting just said he would never go back. And so he left all of everything he owned there and just never went back.
Wow.
So when
I
he
was
was
surprised
talking,
like how passive he was through the whole thing. He like
right.
Oh,
Right.
sorry. I was just going to say he refused to make any. I think the Sasquatch got to the point where they wanted just some type of reaction from him, so they kept upping the ante, and he wouldn't. He would just keep blocking it off more, look like cutting all his windows, retreating further into his. And so he was almost getting PTSD from it. He was getting PTSD from it. Anyway, that's a thought. I was just
The
shocked
real
how he was handling the situation. But anyway.
Well, the crazy thing about it is that apparently the Bigfoot didn't mind being on camera. His camera wasn't great. If you go on to the Sasquatch Chronicles website, you can see some of the photos that are there. But they were just standing right in front of the camera, apparently at night in the dark. So that, it's not great. But usually in these stories, you hear about them avoiding the cameras and these didn't seem to care. So he talked about as many as 3 separate Sasquatch and 1 possible dogman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I dropped a little icon where I thought maybe the area that he was talking about, there's a little horseshoe road right there, but it could be anywhere in this development. He did say he was in the back. So
Unfortunately, my screen's not going very high resolution, but maybe that's a good thing. But yeah, hopefully you can see me trying to share there. But that looks right to me. I typed in, well, I won't say the name place. If somebody goes to the end of the episode, he tells basically where it is. You can type it right into Google Earth. So
Do you have that
Google
X?
Maps.
That X is where you think it is?
That's where I'm guessing. I just dropped it there, general location.
So that's right between Provo and the dam?
Yeah, so that's probably less than a quarter of a mile from the dam itself.
Mm.
There's about 25 houses in
Doesn't
that
look
development.
squatchy, but doesn't look really squatchy. I mean, it's kind of looks like scrub, but in the winter, I'd imagine they would like a place like that where the deer are coming down. And he said the Sulphur Springs he thought was he Googled Sulphur Springs, and they seem to have some attraction for that.
So when was that? When did this happen to the guy? Did they say?
It was 2 years ago.
2022.
Oh, 2 years ago. Okay.
Oh yeah, didn't you have another story, Todd, about 2022? Someone was like tubing down the Provo River and saw
Well,
another Sasquatch.
yeah, a friend of
Same here.
mine was telling me he's into hunting and the outdoors. He knows his way around the outdoors, and he should know enough to be able to identify a bear. But the story is right around that area. So to the upper, you see Deer Creek up there in the corner, and between that and the X is one of the places that you launch the tubing expedition, whatever, along the river. Lots of families go and do it, and he was there with his family. And as he came around one of the bends of the river, he looked off to the side, and he said he saw a extremely large, bright red, like rusty red, grizzly bear laying in the grass, and it lifted its head and looked at him. He insists that it's a grizzly bear, which we know we don't have. He said it was an extra large grizzly bear, so it's an interesting link there. But apparently it was just kind of laying in the grass, taking a nap, and as he came around the bend, somebody made some noise, and it kind of looked up to see what was there and then back down.
Well, didn't Kathy Hoffman see one up there when she was tubing down that river years ago?
I forgot about that story. I think maybe she.
Yeah, she's seen one there along that river too.
I've tubed
Of
down
course,
the
there's
river once.
structures all along that
never
river.
A lot
What was that?
happens, and we've been up there investigating together. Well, at least Rex and a few of us went up there a couple of years ago and found all kinds of sign, and it's all over up there.
Yeah, it's in South Fork, and also
Right.
well, Reo knows about the stuff in South Fork. He was up there with his family, and I went up there after Reo went up there, and I took you guys up there, and there was stuff all there along South Fork. But there's some nice structures there along Provo River too.
The place that I really like is up on top of Squaw Peak, and it's called the Rock Canyon Campground. And you go beyond it, and there is a very secluded, beautiful, thick evergreen forest up there. And that's where I see.
Yeah, the trees are really big and nice. Yeah, I know what we're talking about.
Oh yeah. Oh man, it's such a beautiful place to hike around too. And I'm not sure that I've had anything up there. Maybe not even a wood knock. I can't even remember. But it's a place where there's lots of structures, and I'm sure there's so many stories from around there. And then right over the mountain is what Mark is talking about with the South Fork stuff. What's it called, Mark? What's that park called? That park right there.
Vivian Park.
Yeah, that's right. And then you go back, and then there's that park that everyone goes to. And
South Fork Park.
And then up that mountain in that area, there's just been so much stuff. So I have heard a wood knock, and it was a beautiful wood knock. And it was at night, and I was in my car, and I drove up there. And yeah, that's a great place. That's a great place. And
Rex and I went up to the Girl Scout camp, or not the Girl Scout camp, but the Raw Canyon Campground. I guess it was about 3 years ago, and we went up to that where that structure is on that hill, and we
Well, that's where your sheep cabin was, right?
right, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And we were right there by the sheep cabin, and Rex found a bear kill just off the hill there, just west of that sheep cabin. And I did a whoop, and Rex didn't hear it, but I heard a whoop from the south, about a quarter mile to the south, call back to me. And then the owner of that property along the creek, he kind of chased us off. Remember that, Rex?
Yep. He was across the
Yeah,
creek,
he
and his dog was
he
going
had a
crazy for a
dog over
moment.
there, and he came up and threatened us, and we were out, not even on his property, and he threatened us to get out of there.
Mm.
I went up there one time myself alone, and there was still snow on the ground, and yeah, clear bear track. It almost looked like it was the rear one, so it almost looked like it could be a human, except it had claws and everything. So yeah, there's definitely a black bear wandering around the area.
Well, if I was a bear, I would stay there because it's like Shangri-La back there, and of course, it's private
Yeah,
property,
it's nice.
which sucks. But
Well, just that one lot's private property, just there by the creek.
Yeah.
All the rest of it's just Forest Service or BLM land.
Yeah.
But this guy thinks he owns everything because he has that road going in there about a half mile. And
I think you
so
said
he
you knew
kind
the
of,
family, so I was saying you should have said, "Hey, I knew your
well,
dad," and
my
start dropping
father,
names, but whatever. Probably wasn't
well,
worth it.
my father taught botany with his father, but I didn't have time to talk to him. He was so angry and threatening us that we just kind of got out of there. But they had a
We
cabin in
weren't even
there.
that close to him. We had to kind of yell at each other to hear each other. But anyway,
But there was a cabin over there across that creek about 50 years ago, and back in the 70s, it got burned down.
Mm.
That professor was telling my dad about it. He owned the cabin, but you can still see the plastic pipe coming out of the creek over there where they were getting their water from for the cabin. But
so
they got
go ahead.
go ahead. Oh, anyway, there's a couple of picnic tables they put in there where they have little campouts and stuff and picnics, but that's all they've got in there.
So I'm curious. I don't know. I obviously have not been in the Bigfoot community. I have been listening to Bigfoot case files because that's my favorite Bigfoot source.
Yeah.
I freaking love it.
Me too.
But I haven't been involved with the Bigfoot community at all. Todd, it seems like you haven't. Nate,
No.
you have, right? And Rex has.
I don't know, not really.
And then Mark, you better be involved because you're a
I'm sick.
foundational element of the Bigfoot
I
community.
listen to Canada cryptids every night and Sasquatch case files, and she's got another channel now, so I listen to about 10 episodes a night.
10.
And so
You stayed faithful and true, man. You've really held on to the Sasquatch iron rod. The rest of us have let the fuck go. We've let go.
Well, I'm trying to figure these
Especially
I'm trying to
me.
figure these dudes out. I'm trying to figure out these hairy dudes, man.
Yeah, I know. And here's what I wanted to ask. Is there been any types of new developments in the Bigfoot community, in the collective consciousness of things? I mean, okay, so here's one thing. I know that a lot more people are into the woo, way more people. Wes Germer used to be super against it, and now he's totally on board with it. And so has everyone else, it seems. It's like totally different vibe. It seems like a totally freaking different vibe. Lots of people are like super open to kind of a more paranormal aspect. And so it kind of seems like that has changed. But I wonder if anything else has gotten better or changed or anything. Wonder if people have I don't know. I just really want this mystery to have some type of progress. You know what I mean? I hope that we can get closer to whatever this is.
It really seems like since COVID, not a lot has happened as far as new photos, new video, new.
Everyone's too stressed about money to think about Sasquatch.
True.
That might be it. There's just so much else to be paying attention to, but it really doesn't seem like there's anything new in the last 3 years at all. No advancement at all. I know what's his name from Finding Bigfoot has got with a college, and apparently they're accepting DNA from all over the place, and there's some big project that they're working on, and some East Coast college is doing the DNA on it, and so that's an interesting thing to follow. But outside of that, I mean, I listen to Sasquatch Chronicles once a week, and that's about the extent of it for me. And part of it is because it's just gone so much into the woo. Not because I don't like the woo, but because it's just nothing you can put your hands on. It's just all over the place, and in a lot of ways, it kind of opens the door to more false stories. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah. The one thing I've noticed is that I feel like I see a lot of like AI generated garbage that's coming up on Facebook and stuff. And like people are totally like believing that it's real. And and then I have a hard time believing that they believe it's real because it looks so obviously bad to me. But yet I think people, they see it and it looks, as real as any Marvel movie, and so it must be real. And yeah, so I wonder, like, I kind of wonder if the last couple of years there's going to be a turning point, and I don't think it's going to be a good one, where there's just going to be a lot of fake stuff out there, and it's going to be harder and harder to distinguish the good from the bad.
Here's what I think. I'll give you guys this is a very bizarre theory that I have, and maybe it's real and maybe it's not. I kind of feel like collective consciousness is changing. Just like we talked about with things have gone more woo. I think that in the world, just in general, things are changing. And I think people are, I would say maybe, oh gosh, how do I even say this? I would expect that people are going to start to have different perspectives about ghosts and near-death experiences and aliens and Sasquatch. I heard this one kind of spiritual guru that I follow. She said forest spirits are going to start to become more perceived by people. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting thing to say. Not that I think that Sasquatch is necessarily a spirit or a forest spirit, but could be something kind of like that, because I get the sense that we're not going to find Sasquatch through like somebody finally discovering evidence. I don't think some DNA is going to be like finally come forward and there's going to be finally an acceptance from the scientific community. I don't think that is how this is going to go down. I would suspect that it would be a change in our consciousness that would allow us to perceive them better. And so people would just start to perceive Sasquatch more than they could before. Because I kind of feel like we call it paranormal, but I kind of feel like what's actually happening is that there's just a part of nature that's kind of out of our sight. It's real, but it's almost like it's around a corner. And our consciousness is growing, so eventually we'll be able to see around the corner. As our consciousness grows, like we'll be able to perceive a little bit more. But it seems like right now it's kind of still around the corner, and we can tell that something's there, but we can't see it. Did any of that make sense to anybody? Did that make sense, or was that just a really weird rant?
No, I think it made sense to me. Like
it's weird to say. I don't know what to say, because it's like we're encountering another entity that's just on the limits of our ability to perceive. I mean, I guess Sasquatch, not that we can't perceive it. Sometimes it comes right into our reality, and it stares us right in the face, and we can see that it has hair and that it's 7 feet tall, and that it's right there. And it leaves footprints and it eats animals and it does weird shit. But most of the time, it's not doing such brazen things. Most of the time, it's kind of on the periphery of our ability to perceive and understand. Anyway, continue. I interrupted you, Nate. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it could be like a vibrational thing, you know, if something is a higher vibration or a low vibration than you might not necessarily be able to perceive it. And so let's say that you're right. Like if let's say they're like a higher vibrational being or something, as we raise our vibrations, we might be able to perceive them better.
Yeah, it seems like we would need to change the way we perceive nature before we're better able to perceive them. It seems like. I don't know. It's such a frustrating mystery. I wish that I could do something. Oh God, I just wish that I could understand it better.
You know, in the years that I spent looking, I felt like I ran into something multiple times, but I mean, there were 5 distinct times where I was definitely in the vicinity of something.
Yeah.
Well, let's put it this way. Something was right in front of me or right on the side of me. Like I should have been able to reach my hand out and touch whatever it was, but it was invisible. So every experience that I had, and I don't say it's Bigfoot, I just say it's a weird experience. But I mean, you know, I had something walk up on me. I could hear I could feel the footsteps in my body as it walked up on me. It growled in my ear, and I took a step away, and there was nothing there. And the guy I was with turned around, and before I even heard the growl, he was facing me. He didn't see anything.
Did he hear anything?
You know, I've got to go back and ask him. I at the time I remember that from my memory of when it happened, he turned around because he either felt or heard something. And I didn't really follow up on that, which I need to do. But a couple times, you know, I walked into wallows where I was by myself and I heard something walk out right in front of me.
Yep. I have all sorts of these experiences, all freaking exactly like this.
Yeah. And there's just nothing to see. You can hear it. You can feel it. The one time that we were, let's see, Tony Grove. We were up there at Tony Grove. And I'm up on the side of the hill with, I think it was David. And for whatever reason, I decided to knock on a tree. So I knock on a tree and something knocks back. And it sounded like it was 5 feet away.
Yeah.
So I knock twice, something knocks 3 times. I knock 3 times, it knocks twice. And we were standing there looking at each other for 10 minutes while this thing was either copying me or doing something back. It literally sounded like it was a tree next to us, you know.
Yeah.
But bugs don't do that. Squirrels don't do that. And it was fairly loud. So I mean, how do you explain that? And
there was this one time I was in Dry Bark Wallow up there by Payson Lakes, and this was like this. This was like the second or third time. It was before I had brought anybody into it. And I was in the wallow, and I think sometimes I did this. I didn't ever really talk about this much publicly, but sometimes I would just talk out loud to it and be like, "Hey, if anyone's here, blah blah blah," you know, whatever. And I was talking, and blast, this super loud wood knock right next to me on the tree. Tree was like 10, 12 feet away, and it was just somebody just smacked it with a baseball bat. I mean, it was so loud, it just scared me out of my skin. But it was right there, and I look over, and there's just nothing there. I have all sorts of those.
I had a similar
crazy
thing in. Oh, sorry, I had myself muted earlier. I was just going to start really quickly. And I had a similar experience in Dry Bark Wall. You took us in there, and there was this loud noise, something like it's vocalizing, but it was like it was right at your ear, and then there was nothing there. And I asked you, "Did you do that, Rio?" And you kind of were like, "Huh?" Like kind of. But I was gonna add, that's kind of like some people say we're ascending to the fourth density or something. That's one way to say, what you're describing. But another way
Some
is,
people.
we're getting closer to some religious type things that are kind of awakening people. But I was gonna also add that, and sorry, my video is really slow, so I can't see how people are reacting. But I've tried to stay away from the drama of the community, but I have seen some things where Do you remember, Mark, when Robert Kreider gave I think it was him who gave a presentation at the over in
Yeah,
Altamont,
right.
and he
That
kind
was
of told
excellent.
us some things about Dr. Meldrum that didn't sound favorable as far as credibility, but I won't go into that here. But if you go watch that somewhere, um, yeah, he sounds like he did some things that basically almost got them thrown away in jail because they had some evidence, and then Meldrum made the evidence disappear, and the University of New Mexico had paid for all this, and all of a sudden there was no evidence that the research had been done or had any of the work had been done on it. So that was kind of disturbing. I'm assuming Meldrum is a great guy, but it sounds like he's kind of shilling for something. Maybe I don't know. But anyway, also, and have you? I can't remember what was another thing I was going to bring up. Um, oh, there was I guess a tour on an Alaskan cruise, and he had Dr. Meldrum and also what's the missing 411 guy? They were both doing presentations anyway.
Paulides, David Paulides.
Yep, David and Paulides, and they got kind of a heated discussion. They're kind of handing their rear ends to each other, as someone was describing it. But in the end, they kind of got to where they were, saying, hey, we're trying to. Anyway, they snapped out of it, but it was kind of eye-opening as well. That, certain people have. I already knew this, but certain egos and just anyway. I'm just thinking out loud, but that's some things I've seen in the community, which I try to avoid the drama type stuff, but I do observe it sometimes because I am still watching things here and there.
That Robert Kreider's cool. I think he's my favorite researcher for sure.
Oh yeah, he does good scientific stuff, but he also believes in the woo. He keeps his mind open to that as well. So I mean, he's kind of like that.
Yeah, I stayed at the same cabin that he did at the gathering. And so we just like our whole little group stayed up like all night talking about stuff. Man, that guy is like the most interesting man in the universe. Like he started out as
he goes out and he was
he
months out
started out
there
as a
like doing
treasure
research.
hunter. Like he's discovered like whole Spanish treasures before, like in New Mexico and stuff. And he's really good at it. He has a lot of cool treasure stories. And he decided to kind of get out of the treasure hunting business because he discovered some big treasure and the government came in and basically seized everything. And he spent all these years fighting in court for it and didn't make back a dime. And so he's like, screw it. While I'm out in the wilderness, I see all this Bigfoot stuff. I'm just going to start investigating that. And he found out, there's a little better living in it, maybe.
Send me his stuff, Nate.
Yeah, he's very
Can you please
thorough in his
text me?
research. I mean, he found a certain time of year there's moths that are these grubs under the rocks, and he found out that a certain side of the mountain that they're only where they are, and that's where the Sasquatch activity. I mean, just stuff like that nobody would figure out unless they were out there forever, looking into it. And they're actually eating the grubs before they become moths. So.
Anyway. And this guy's in New Mexico. He's not like in the Northwest. He's out in the middle of the desert. I mean, there's still dense forests and stuff out there, but a lot of his places that I see his videos on, he's like out in a place that looks like southern Utah. Mm-hmm. He's not in the thick forest all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of like the Desert Sasquatch guy.
Mm-hmm.
Over in Nevada.
Yeah, he's in Nevada, I think, but yeah.
Which, by the way, I just heard Robert Kreider's coming to Phenomicon. I don't know if he's coming to the gathering this year, but he's coming to Phenomicon.
I gotta go. One of these
times.
Yeah, you gotta meet this guy. He's incredible.
I'm going this year. If he comes to the gathering, you should come to that this year, Reo.
Yeah, you ought to do an open mic presentation. Blow people's minds because usually the people who get up, it's okay, but they're kind of. I mean, I don't know. Me and Mark are probably as good as anybody there, and I mean, there's anyway. It's a little lacking on the Bigfoot end of it.
Is Phenomicon in Vernal?
Yeah, it's a little pricey. Well, it's pricier than like the Gathering because the Gathering's free, but I can't remember what it costs. I think it's like $100, $120 to get in. And then they have like different activities that cost more. So in the end, it's actually kind of expensive, but it's a really cool experience. Like I meet like a lot of people. Like 2 years ago, I went Skinwalker hunting with like Stacy Brown in the middle of the night just because I met him
Oh
there.
God. See, that's Stacy Brown. He's one of my favorite Bigfoot researchers. I love him.
That guy's nuts. He was really fun to be with.
Yeah, dude, he's freaking cool, man. I would do any weird shit with him. Like it's night stuff that he goes and does. That's cool.
Yeah, he was cool. And I've met like all kinds of people. Like James Keenan was there, and because like they charge so much to get in. There's not. I mean, there's a lot of people that go there, but the guests are more accessible for people because there's not just a billion people. You can actually go talk to people and ask them questions, and yeah, like I've met everybody that's on the Skinwalker Ranch show. The finding the find or the not finding Bigfoot. What's Expedition Bigfoot? Like all those guys. Like I took a track casting class from Maria last year. Like it was really cool. So they have a lot of neat people.
Well, you can pay just for one day if you want.
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
you can pick your speaker and just go for the day and get it for a lot less money.
Yeah, that's true. You don't have to go the whole time. I think it's like a 3 or 4 day event this year, so you don't have to go to the whole thing if you don't want to.
Let me say something about invisible Sasquatch again. Can we talk? Can we get back to that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. I mean, if you guys wanted to go, Rex, if you're ever trying to steer
Sasquatch
somewhere,
ghost.
let me know. But I was really skeptical, obviously, of a Sasquatch itself, obviously, and then of an invisible Sasquatch is like the stupidest thing on top of that. But yet, it seems to be some crazy, interesting thing, and so I don't think that I've necessarily experienced an invisible Sasquatch, but here's what I have experienced. A bunch of those peripheral things, and this is the same thing in the ghost community, by the way. Even in the alien abduction community, this is a big thing, is seeing things in your periphery, forms like shadow people, basically, in your peripheral vision. And then before you even finish turning your eyes, they jump behind something or they jump somewhere. And so I think it's interesting that that is also part of the Sasquatch phenomenon, because I did experience that in the woods several times, several times. But I kept dismissing it. And usually what it was like a figure, and it would either hunker down or it would be running and he would jump behind something. But even in my peripheral vision, it would fade and disappear completely before it even got behind the object. So it would jump behind a tree, but it would be like disappeared before it would get behind a tree. So at first I was like, well, this is just fake. This is just me wanting to have a sighting. But sometimes it was really stark. And I was like, okay, I know that was something. I turn my head and there's nothing. And I walk over there and there's nothing. But then it happened with another person and they had the exact same experience. We both said, whoa, at the same time. And he said, did you just see the thing jump behind the thing? And I made sure not to describe it to him that time. That time I was going to see what they experienced. And they saw a shadow person go and jump behind the thing, and it faded and it disappeared before it went behind the tree. And then I said, okay, you keep staring at the tree and I go up the hill. And you guys probably know the story already, but like we found footprints and it was just a weird. So after that experience, I was like, okay, this disappeary, shadowy thing might be something legitimate. It's funny because it's exactly what people say in ghosts type stuff, poltergeist type stuff, ghost sighting type stuff. It's also what people say maybe when they experience time slips, which is a whole nother paranormal subject. People that have UFO abductions or UFO experience or alien contact, they say that stuff like that will happen in their home. They'll see figures, shadow figures, and then they'll disappear. So that's that. So as far as Bigfoot, that was something that happened fairly consistently. It happened to me probably around 20 times or something, some couple dozen times. But it wasn't uncommon. It wasn't too rare, especially if I was in an active area. And sometimes it would happen while I was hearing knocks and whoops and stuff. So I had to, at some point, I felt compelled to say, yeah, this shadowy thing, this has got to be part of the phenomenon. So there's that. Okay. And then the other thing that has happened is that, well, I heard the stomping footsteps, Todd, that came like right by me. And I was like, it's impossible that I'm not seeing a creature right now. It was bipedal, boom, 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 right by me on the hillside. It was below me on the hillside, and it just stomped through the leaves while the wind was blowing. It was stomping, and then the wind would stop, and everything would go still, and it would stop. But it was just marching right by me. That was the weirdest thing. Nothing. It didn't see anything. That kind of thing happened like 2 or 3 times.
When it happened to me, there was nothing for anything to hide behind. It was in an opening. There's just something was there that couldn't be seen. It was that simple.
Yeah. I had the same thing happen, only it like disappeared right in front of me. It was in the dark, so I couldn't see anything, but you should have heard something crashing through the brush, because I heard big footsteps and everything, but it was just like instantly disappeared in silence. Like looking around the area, it should have been making way more noise, but there was nothing there.
Well, here's the other. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so my question is it the same phenomena? I mean, wood spirits is a subject that goes back as far as you can research, and in areas that don't necessarily, aren't known for Bigfoot, in Norway and Sweden and England.
Yeah. Well, that's why when I heard the girl, this book, in the book, she says, that forest spirits will become more known to people going forward. Like the premise of the book is that the human species, the human race, is experiencing a shift in consciousness happening right now. And like Rex said, some people call it the ascension, but that to me sounds like a little bit hoity-toity, like, oh my God, I'm better than you. But like, so I don't call it the ascension, but it's like a shift. It's like an expansion of our ability to perceive reality. So our perspective is shifting. We're in the same reality, but we're experiencing more of it.
What's the book, Reo?
It's a really trippy book, and you won't be able to. It's really far out there. It's called Oneness by Rasha, Rasha, Rasha. It's a spiritual book, but yeah, that's interesting. I wonder. Yeah, I wonder if we're gonna start to perceive these phenomenon better. Like I have a creeping suspicion that like the subject of Bigfoot will take a step forward again. Like we're gonna have like it will be more by the time I die. I feel like we'll probably understand this a lot more than we do. Anyway,
We don't, get bombed
it is
back
frustrating
to the
that it's
Stone
so
Age here
ghostly.
anytime. But
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Rick.
well, I was just trying not to be snarky, but I said if we don't get bombed back to the Stone Age here, like in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But anyway, but that actually might help us. It just depends on the perspective. So.
Yeah, that's true.
I wanted to tell you guys more stories. There was the other thing that I've experienced. So there's the stomping footsteps, there's the things in the peripheral, and then there's the other thing. It's called like what should I call it? Like a ghostly touch or something, where it's almost like you feel like you just got poked. You know that it wasn't somebody. You know that you didn't physically get poked, but it's almost like the sensation of someone staring at you times 10, and you're just like, whoa, whoa. And you look, it just like almost startles me. I've had that happen 3 or 4 times where I felt very acutely like something was looking at me, or maybe even somehow it was more than looking at me, because it felt like it was like affecting me somehow. I wouldn't call that being zapped or anything. I've never experienced the zapped thing ever. I mean, I feel like shit all the time. So if a Sasquatch zapped me and it made me feel like shit, then I would be like, oh, this is a normal day. I get zapped every day.
Zapped
Have
without being zapped.
Have you ever had your covers pulled off at night?
Okay. Well,
Uh-oh,
now we're
another
getting
can
it.
of, can of
So
worms.
this is, but
probably your
now we're
wife.
getting kind of away from Sasquatch. But yes, just one time have I experienced this, and it actually, it was. I think it was more of a ghostly thing, but the thing was. It felt so uncomfortable because it felt like somebody was breathing on me, and it was warm and it was uncomfortable and it was right here. And I woke up to this. It woke me up, and I wasn't frozen. I didn't have sleep paralysis or anything, but it was just this thing. You know how when someone's standing really close to you, your ear like hears the muffled, like your ear doesn't hear very well if it knows that it's right next to something. Okay. Well, this thing was like over me, and I didn't open my eyes because I guess I was scared, but and it kept pulling the stupid sheet off my shoulder, and it was and I'd pull it back up, and then it would just slowly go sliding back, and it was really creepy. Thinking about it afterwards was more scary than actually experiencing it, but I mostly just wanted it to end. I wanted that experience to end. It was very, very uncomfortable, but the whole thing lasted, like a minute, and then it was over.
Twice in the last couple of years, I've had the covers move, like being pulled off, and the same type of thing. I didn't like look up. I didn't want to see. I just reach down, grab it up, and roll over, go back to sleep.
Well, I just think like I just think like how inconsiderate. How inconsiderate. Like if you're a ghost, if you want to do some sort of like what the hell is your point? Why are you doing this? Are you just trying to have fun? Are you trying to scare somebody? Or are you trying to communicate? Like what is the point of that? It's like obnoxious behavior because it felt like somebody was going, huh. They were just like staring at the side of my face. And I think I asked for some type of experience. So I was kind of in a phase where I was thinking about it. And so maybe it just happened. Like I could see one of my dead relatives, my grandpa, for instance, I could see him coming back and doing something just to play a trick on me.
Right.
So, but I don't know what it was. I don't know who that was. So anyway,
Wow.
there's that.
Cool.
Do you guys have ghost stuff, Mark and Nate? Do you guys have ghost stuff at all?
I don't know.
Yeah. It's kind of weird though. I don't know if I want to get into it. But,
Should we end the live stream? No, just kidding.
Was it because you were looking for it, or it just found you?
but I'll say yes. Actually, one I can show you part of the story anyway. This happened just a couple months ago. We were watching TV down in my basement with my kids. We were just watching a movie together. I think it was either Christmas Day or maybe the day after. And we heard, like, we kind of have a creaky house, and we heard and it's not uncommon for it to creak, a little bit, especially as it gets colder at night, things fluctuate. But anyway, we heard like steps from our upstairs, like where our bedroom is above where we were. And they were like steps, like no question. It was like maybe 4 or 5 steps. It sounded like somebody walking. And both me and my wife just looked at each other. The kids didn't notice. We're like, what the heck was that? Nobody else is in this house but us. And so I was like, I'm gonna go check it out. Maybe the door got left unlocked or something. Went up there, the door's locked, it's shut. Went upstairs, looked around. As soon as I got upstairs, though, like all the hairs on my body just stood on end. I was like, I'm not alone up here, and it didn't feel good either. I don't know if I'd say like it felt like pure evil, but it felt like there was an intruder in the house, kind of. And I did the Christian Mormon thing, and I lifted my hand up and cast it out, and everything was fine after that. So that's a piece of the story, but yeah, I don't know if that was a ghost or what it was, but something was there.
How old is your house? Is it on the older side? You said it's creaky.
It's 70s. It was built in 1970 or 71, I think.
Okay.
That happened at our house. I mean, we don't even have an attic. There's just a crawl space up there, and there was a couple weeks where it sounded like someone was walking around up. I mean, it sounded like footsteps, but there's not enough space up there for that. So that didn't, that doesn't make any sense. But it lasted for about 2 weeks, maybe every other night, and then it just went away. I don't know. We never did know what happened, but.
Wow.
The only story I have is from a long time ago. I grew up in Florida on an orange grove, and the house was built in 1885. It was built by my great-great-grandfather. It was kind of a white Victorian-looking home. It sits on a hill over the lake. We have the orange groves. Some of them were 100-year-old orange trees until they froze in the 80s, and then we had to burn them all. And then I found a bunch of arrowheads all over everything, but that's another story. But anyway,
Wow.
my parents said when we were little kids, my brother and I were babies, they would sometimes hear, something would slam doors in the old home there. But their theory is that we were always crying and stuff. And one time we were kind of doing a ruckus, all crying, and it finally slammed the door, and it never. It's like it finally left because it's too annoyed by our making noise, I guess, or something. And we never, when we were growing up, we never seemed to see any, ghosts or anything around there. But up until that point, apparently they were kind of experiencing different subtle things going on like that. So I think maybe it was a
That
relative that finally got ticked off enough and decided to move on. So
Yeah, it sounds like you annoyed a ghost to cross over. I mean, you were a vital part of its
guess so.
spiritual journey.
I mean, crying kids, yeah, I guess I can
Of
get
course, it's
can get
kids,
pretty
man.
annoying. So
Crying kids would be the worst.
He thought
if I were
he
a ghost,
was
I'd probably be through with it
he was
too.
haunting the building, and then he was waiting for a sign, and then his descendants came with their kids, and he was like, after a weekend of that, he's like, "Why the hell am I on this planet still? Lee, I
I've,
am done."
Out of
I've already
here.
heard crying kids, and I don't need to hear this again.
Good stuff.
Yeah, man, it's I kind of think that we're not seeing very well any of this. I don't think we're really understanding very much of it, the very small percentage of it. And I think it will probably make sense one day. And I think we're going to understand aliens, Sasquatch, and ghosts probably around the same time because they're like in a place of outer consciousness. Ghosts don't have bodies, it seems, at least in this reality. But Sasquatch do. So they are distinct phenomenons. Phenomena. But I was gonna say something. I don't know. I think that I think we're gonna understand it better one day. Where I was going with that, it will come back to me. But keep going, Rex.
Well, I don't have much else to add. I think we covered pretty much. We went around several times to everybody. We've been on an hour and a half. Did we want to in the live stream part maybe just do a little brainstorming of places on our wish
Oh,
list for 2024, provided it doesn't hit the fan and we're all you know, bugging out in the woods and
thank you.
with a shotgun or whatever.
Okay,
Provided we
listen.
still have technology to communicate, we could conceivably do some outings. Hopefully.
I think that there's a place that I would like to go with people. Um,
Do you want
and
me to
I'll
cut the
say
live stream or hold it up off for a little
it
more?
doesn't matter. I'll say it on live. I don't care. I don't
Okay,
really
yeah,
care.
we'll just keep it for a little bit.
Okay, so La Plata is now private. So I'm not sure how we would get in, but there is some of the squatchiest woods in the world are in La Plata, and they're actually along a dirt road. La Plata is super deep out there. It is the definition of the middle of the Utah wilds. And there is one guy who said that they're always up on the same hill. And I went and squatched up there, and there's all sorts of stuff up on that hill, all throughout those woods. So
Isn't
that
that
would
where you
be a
got
place.
lost almost for a while and you were trying to
Me?
find your way back? Yeah.
Yeah,
There
I
was a
got
story where
lost
you said
for.
you were. Yeah.
Yeah, good memory. Holy cow. Yeah, I got lost there. And so that would be like if there was my dream place to go would be there. Me and Nate and whoever else have been wanting to go to back to Sasquatch Pond. That's another place. Somebody should write these down. So 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 the one in La Plata is like a dream. La Plata is like the dream to go somewhere. And I know the exact place that I would want to go. That'd be
That
my
Utah?
#1 spot.
I think we can get in there. Like, I know it's on private property, but we were reading, like, this was like 2 years ago with Christy, and we found out who the owner was, and it sounded like he was pretty friendly to people, and we'll let him go hunt and stuff there.
I think there's
Dude,
some
if you
places
could,
nearby, like Scare Canyon or something, that you can go to, right?
yeah, and the other thing is Scare Canyon and La Plata both have super robust, rich histories of Bigfoot stuff. So that would be the place. And then what was the second place? Sasquatch Pond is up Timpanogos Mountain. It's out on a shelf, and it's
Oh, is that the
super.
one I call Frog Log Wallow? Is that
Yes, that's it.
name?
That's it.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
want to
that's an
camp in
interesting place.
Froggle.
No one's dared camp there yet, but
Oh
I'll
yeah,
do it.
yeah, that's on my
we,
list. Last year the road was closed the whole year. They were, I don't know if they had some excuse for they were
dude.
reconditioning or
Someone's
something.
gonna go down to Frog Log, and someone's gonna have a crazy Sasquatch encounter down there, because that is exactly the place that you see a Sasquatch. And
I
there
don't know if
are,
you remember sorry to interject real quick. I don't know if you remember, there's kind of a scree pile, all these like rocks you want to drive up to there. And when we had that, the not outing, the people coming in from Canada and everywhere with Kevin, but
yeah,
all of us heard something mimicking Leanne Carnegie's laugh. It was mimicking it up on the rocks there, and we all heard it. It simultaneously looked at each other, and we confirmed that we all heard it. So yeah, that area
well,
out
Oh,
there
wow.
is weird.
the problem with that place, and we haven't squatched it. We went to it once, but we really didn't stay there. Somebody needs to actually go there and sleep there and stay there, and it's got to be Mark. I've decided it has to be Mark.
Well,
He has to stay
I'll
there
do
for
it.
2 nights.
I'll do it.
I only say it because I know that Mark will actually go do it.
He'll follow through this
The problem with
with
that one,
joy.
We're not going
Yes,
to bother an old man.
the problem with that one, Mark, is that you'd have to drive all the way up to the Timpuniki campground and then beyond, and then you have to cross all the way over the mountain onto now you're facing the Salt Lake. Now you're on the
Yeah, I
west
did that.
side.
I did that once. I took a girl up there and we were making out there at the lookout around the front of the mountain.
He's
there's
made
a
out.
What's
He's
You
made
that?
could
out.
back in the 80s, you could drive around that road around the front of Timpanogos. There's a nice lookout there.
Yeah, yeah. And then from there you go north back down into the deep forest. You have to go down. So anyway,
Right.
that's one. There's the super classic one, and still nobody has really done this. I had one couple from California do this with me, and we had a crazy encounter at night. Oh, the story that I wanted to tell you. Okay. It just came back to me. Remember, this is the story. I have to say it before I forget. West Desert, Utah. There's a mountain range out there. What's it called? I can't remember. But I go there with a guy. He has a YouTube channel. He's one of my favorite dudes. He was in the inner
Oh yeah,
circle.
I
His
know who
name's
you're talking about.
John something. I love him.
Yeah,
He's so fun.
Tolman.
John Tolman. I freaking love him. So we go
Yeah,
out.
it's Ensign
In the,
Peak. No, it's not Ensign Peak. There's
No,
a
no, no, no.
I know the
Ra-
name of the place, but I can't think of it. Yeah,
Raspberry,
go on.
Strasberry, Strasberry, whatever.
Strasbourg.
So anyway, it's
Yeah.
out left. Beautiful place to go squatching, by the way. Super freaking squatchy. We had a really huge howl and whoops while we were there. We had a on the recorder, because he left it going all night. We had someone come up to the recorder and go like a high pitched laugh, exactly like the one I just did. It was
Oh,
really weird.
Stansberry's. Is that what you're talking about?
Stansbury, yeah, and
Oh,
the,
okay.
It is,
and there's only, and if you look at the mountain range, the
sure,
Stansbury
it's
mountain
not
range on Google
Deseret
Earth,
Peak.
If you look at
Yeah.
if you look at Google Earth, there's only one super green part, and it splits like a hoof, like a giant elk moose hoof. The canyon. I'm talking about the shape of the canyon. Anyway, you go in there into the really green, robust. It's really beautiful in there. And but that night that I went with John and we went out there and we stayed there and we were the only ones in the entire campground. He the whole night he was snoozing in his truck. And I laid out I went in the middle of the road and I rolled out my mat and I put my sleeping bag there and I heard something walk up and I was on my stomach and I heard something walk up and straddled my head. So I had it walked and it was so heavy that it was popping the rocks on the dirt road, like a car tire pops the rocks. Well, this thing walked up, it's heavy. I thought it was probably a moose, but it felt like it walked right over my head and then it stopped. So I had one foot on this side, one foot on this side, and it just stood there. This was one of the weirdest experiences that I have ever had. And it was out at the Stansbury Mountain Range.
Wow.
And it just stood perfectly still and quiet. And I sat there and I listened and I froze. I couldn't hear breathing, but I felt like something was standing over me and I felt like something was staring down on me. And I decided to flip over really fast and try and fish my way out of the hole of the sleeping bag and look. And that was hard to do. But it's as soon as I moved, it twitched and jumped into the bushes and there was a big crash. And that's that experience. But how weird is it that something just stood over me? It was just scary.
Did you smell anything or see anything?
I didn't smell, and that was the night that I had my thermal with me, and I had this weird little setup for my phone attaching to my thermal. So I probably have the footage somewhere, but I didn't catch anything. I just sat there for, I was awake for the rest of the night trying to look through things. But yeah, so it's just like one of those. We've been talking about the invisible stuff. We've been talking about, there's the telepathy. There's all sorts of stuff. It's just so strange that behavior is so strange. I don't even know what to say about that.
So,
But it's ghostly and smart,
Yeah. Yeah, I want to go to Stansbury's too. That's on my squatching list. I think we need to go back to Sasquatch Canyon too, that we went to a couple years ago.
You mean Sasquatch Meadow?
Or is it whichever one? Yeah.
We gotta stop using the
Is
name
that the one
Sasquatch
near
For
American
everything.
Fork?
Yeah, that's the one that you took us to, Rex, and we had like wood
Okay.
knocks all night.
It's the one by Sasquatch Stream.
Yeah, I don't even
and
have a name
Sasquatch
for that
Rock.
one. That's my top secret place.
That's
but
the
yeah,
one, yeah.
we'll call it whatever you want.
We got to go back there. Like that
That's the
place
one where it was bipedal running past me, and I was the only one there. So that was quite
Really?
intimidating. Yeah,
Well, that
that's why
whole
I
area.
let you guys know about it.
So I'll take you to a wallow there that's by Granite Flats campground, kind of, but like up the mountain. So there's Squatchy. That place is like Payson Canyon. It's like there is serious. That's one of the most active places ever, right there around. Um, what's the reservoir, Todd? It's below Granite Silver Lake. It's below like, oh my gosh.
I don't know.
But American
Yeah,
Fork
it's
Canyon,
the Silver Flat Reservoir kind of.
and then the one.
Right. That's the one where it
Anyway,
has all the aspens around it.
that whole area though, like there's so much more that we could do up there. So
And you got Forest Lake too up there.
you got Forest Lake up there.
Seems like it's drying out, though. I don't know if it's still the trend or not. But I got a list here. I just wanted to mention real quick. I've actually set up like this day trip Utah Sasquatch tours where I'm not gonna I'm gonna charge $25. Okay, I'm not like ripping people off, but I'm only doing like one per month, June through September. So 4 trips, only 4 people maximum. I'm not charging anybody who's a friend who's already watched with me, but I just wanted to bring that up. And I got a little sign up thing. I don't know if anybody's actually gonna go on it, but but I'll just run through the places you've already mentioned, actually, I think 2 of them that I wanted to go to. One was the Frog Log Wallow or Sasquatch Pond. Another one was the one I call Primordial Forest Shelf, and you haven't been to that one yet. I don't think. I think I'm the only one that's been there, and it's really actually no. Mark kind of tried to go up. Do you remember between that shelf, Mark? That's between what is it? Broad's Fork and what is it called? Blanche Lake, Lake Blanche. It's kind of up by Cottonwood Little or Big Cottonwood Canyon. You try to go up it, and you didn't go that far, but anyway,
I got
that's
too much
an interesting.
up there.
Are you
That's
talking
another
about?
interesting one. Go ahead.
Are you talking about Blood Lake? That's just up above Brighton?
That's further on up there where it's a little bit drier. I think it's not quite that direction. I mean, it's that general area, but that's several miles away.
Oh, okay.
And if you know the hike to Lake Blanche, it's a pretty popular hike even in winter because of the skiers. You can still hike it in winter. I had a whoop up there when I slipped and I kind of crunched my shoulders on some compacted snow end of January. I was the only one up there, but anyway, it's in that general area. There's a kind of a forest shelf that separates the 2 hikes. In fact, I could, well, let me pull it up on a map, but I don't know if I want to do that live stream, but that area is really not good. I'll send a video maybe. And then the 4th, let's see, I had 4 different spots, I think. There's another place that's way up up Payson Canyon. It's beyond where the fire burned. It's up almost to Nebo, and that's one of the first places I ever went to. I entitled it the video something like Foreboding Forest, and has all these ripped up trees, and I think some of it's just due to snow load, but that'd be an interesting
Every
area to go again to. I
every
haven't been there
time
in
that
years.
every time I go to Payson Lakes, and I think Nate was with me one time, or somebody was with me, and there's a whole side of the mountain that we've never gone to, and it's super thick, deep forest, and it's up above, kind of on an incline. And every single time I've gone there, I've said, I gotta squatch that forest for like the last 6 years. So, but I've never gone there, so that would be fun to go,
Yeah, if you show
and
me where it is on
fairly
the
easy.
map, I might.
Add it
I
to the
also
list.
came in from the Mona side, and there's a interesting stuff that wasn't burned. I went on that side, and there's kind of an area where you drop down in before you get to Payson Canyon. And I ran across a couple of guys there, and they asked me what I was doing there because not many people go up there, and apparently they go up there all the time because they live in Mona. And I finally told them what I'm doing, and they kind of said, "Well, I've never seen any Bigfoot up here." But then I asked them, "Well, have you ever heard any wood knocks?" They said, "Oh, yeah, I've heard of wood knocks." So that's probably means they're up there. Um,
You know, the
let me see. I think I have
squatchiest
one
place I've
more
ever
spot.
been is Fairview. We should add that to the list.
Yeah, but you said that we can't go back to that guy's place.
We can go back. Just you got to be careful. it's on private property, but
Todd won't do it.
there's actually other stuff that's not on private property. There's kind of a reservoir up there. I'd have to look up the name of it, but there is a lake up there that's pretty cool. And like there's the biggest asterisk I've ever seen, like the most perfect one up there. That's about, I don't know, it was probably 20 foot off the ground. Like the trees were like 50 feet long. It's pretty cool. But
So
that's a
Fairview
good
Canyon.
place. Also, yeah, it's up Fairview Canyon.
Okay, I'm making notes here. So okay.
There,
And
there's
mine, the other
also,
2 you guys already mentioned, so I've completed my
Hold
list.
on, hold on.
Go
I have
ahead.
to say this. We have to do reconnaissance first before we actually go somewhere, because we can't just go off deep in the woods somewhere because there might not be anything there. Somebody has to go in there and make sure that it's a good solid corridor, and that there's like some wallows that we can find, So we
Most
gotta.
of these we've been to so far, but yeah, find this best spot within it is always good.
Yeah.
GPS coordinates.
yeah.
There's been a couple of sightings on that road between Wallsburg. You go over the top near Strawberry Peak, and you come out there at the top of the canyon there above Heber, where that lodge is.
Yeah,
Cloud Lodge.
Daniel's
there was a sighting,
Summit. Is that what you mean?
Daniels.
Yeah, there was a sighting there on BFRO. They were staying in the cabins there in September of 2022, and they were coming. They heard their dog started barking. He went out there behind the cabins. They saw a Sasquatch out there around the aspens, and that road comes out right there near that summit, that lodge. Daniel's Lodge is called Daniel's Summit Lodge. That road comes out right there, and it comes down and drops down into Wallsburg. And I took the map tonight, and there's about 4 or 5 springs along that road, that dirt road that connects Wallsburg and that Daniel's Summit. And there's been sightings at both ends, one there at the cabins and one down there closer to Wallsburg. And that would probably be a good spot just to do a drive-through sometime and check out the 4 springs. And then also the Spectacle Lake. There's been a couple experiences up there. One was on the Cache Valley website, and one was on
their Facebook page.
Yeah, Cache Valley Bigfoot.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
And Spectacle Lake, that happened Memorial Day of 2017. There was a guy went up there with his girlfriend or his brother or something, and they went in there at that Spectacle Lake, and they got stuck in the snow, so they were forced to camp there in the snow, and they got harassed with whistling. There was adults, Bigfoot's arguing. There was the sound of small children making noises, and then it ended with a growl. That happened during the night, and then another sighting came out just the lake next to it. I can't think of the lake, Blue Lake or something, just past Spectacle Lake, and they had the same thing happen to them. They were harassed. I think that was a year later. But Spectacle Lake, you go up 18 miles past Camas on Mirror Lake Highway. You go past the tunnel. It's 18 miles. You make a left, and you go 4.5 miles up this road called Spring Canyon Road or something. And it's and right there is where these lakes are. It's only a 1/4 mile hike to Spectacle Lake. So there's no trail to it, but it's just a 1/4 mile. And that's a pretty hot area. Like I say, there's been 2 experiences there. A third possibility is there's a couple of gals coming down from Montana. They used to be in Reo's group back at the beginning. And I've kind of kept in communication with them. They have their own little Bigfoot thing going on up there in Browning, Montana. They're Blackfeet women. And they want to come down to Utah this summer. They're going to Bluff Creek for a while, and they're going to come over to Utah. And so I talked to my family about having something going on at the cabin up there. The cabin's been changing a lot, those structures up there. They changed again this year or last summer, completely changed. And so I thought maybe we could do an overnighter up there. It's anytime.
At your cabin?
Yeah.
With these ladies?
Well, just with a group of people, we could have. Yeah. When I was a runner, we used to have parties up there. We used to run up to Dog Lake and up past that lake, and we'd have men and women up there. And we'd have the women stay upstairs, and the men downstairs, or the men in the cabin. The men can sleep down the patio outside. But there's a regular bathroom there now, and it's only about 200 yards from this wallow. Some can sleep in the wallow if they want.
Let's do it.
I talked to my family already about it, and they says, yeah, have an overnighter up there. Mixed company doesn't matter. We could just separate them out. But anyway, these gals are coming here sometime in July or in August or September, and they want to be around some Bigfoot stuff. And so they'll probably be here for 3 or 4 days. And so that's one place I like to take them is up there. Is up Mill Creek Canyon to the cabin, and then we could take them to another place you guys want to go that you're talking about. But they're campers and everything. They're not like these Utah women that want to go out for an hour and then go home. They're pretty tough gals, and they camp out and stuff, and they have their own experiences up there in Montana.
Yeah, I remember you
They're a lot
told me
of
about them.
they're a
They're
lot
Native
of
Americans, so yeah, they probably got
yeah,
us
they're a
beat.
lot of
So.
fun, and they're a lot of fun. And anyway, they want to meet Rio. I think that's the main attraction.
Okay. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, let's
Sounds good.
try and go. Let's try and go somewhere that's squatchy. Let's do some reconnaissance.
Yeah, I think we should go where there's been a history of some kind of stuff going on, or there's something going on there. I'm not really
History.
into bushwhacking anymore, where we're not sure what's going to be up there, like we did up there at Christmas Meadows. I don't want to do that again.
That's because a lot of our stuff is just exploratory, and we're hoping to find new stuff.
Yeah,
But let's not do that this time.
yeah. Let's
This
go with
time,
proven stuff.
let's go to a place
Where
that's
we've had
already
experiences, maybe.
squatchy.
All right, I agree.
We've got
Somewhere
plenty of
that there's
places.
experiences, somewhere that there's history of sightings, somewhere that
Although
looks squatchy, that
Right,
has
there
tree
was a
structures.
history up there on Christmas Meadows, but yeah, it's tough to know
because I'm
if
not
we're there
getting
right
any
now.
younger. I'm not getting
Yeah.
any younger.
And that's why I say, if we go somewhere like La Plata, already in the super dark woods, I know exactly where. That's where, I mean, I know that if somebody stayed there for like 2-3 nights, it's almost like you're guaranteed to experience something. That's the type of place where you get your trailer shook and all that jazz.
Well, those Blackfoot women would love it.
But that's like a big deal. If we went out there, that's like hours to drive out there, and
Where is it?
it's a whole thing.
Let's do
Is
But
it.
it on near? Is it near the Nevada border?
It's like east of Ogden, kind of, right? Or in
no,
the middle of.
it's straight east of Porcupine Reservoir, and it's just in the middle of nowhere in northern Utah. It's not near the Nevada border. I'll send you where it is. But anyway,
Oh, okay,
or
yeah.
or Sasquatch Pond, which is a hike to get to. Or
Mhm.
we could camp. We could always camp at the back of, and this one should not be overlooked, Coldwater Canyon in Ogden.
I want
If
to
you
do that.
go, if you go and camp at the back of that, for some reason, I, even I don't have the bravery to be alone and camp at the back of that canyon. I think that Mark has more bravery than me. If you want a surefire uh, Sasquatch experience, you can camp back there. But the scary thing about being back there is that once it gets dark, you feel like you're in a haunted house. I mean, it is very scary. It's a very scary
Rex
place to
and I,
be.
Rex and I went up there one night years ago and took up some flute music or something. We're playing it up there at the top of Coldwater. We
Yeah, it
were
was
up
like
there for
10
what?
p.m. or something.
We were up there for an hour or two in the dark. And did we get any response back? I don't remember. I don't think we did.
I
Did
just
we?
know when we entered, there was some little something whistle or something, but that was it that I remember. We didn't get a response back to the music, or it went silent.
But that's always that canyon. Oh my gosh, that canyon is very creepy, and it feels different than other canyons. And that I've had like so many experiences back there. One time I was talking to those kids, those young, like 11, 12-year-old kids that were camping. There's 5 of them. And I said, have you guys ever heard of a wood knock? And we were talking about Bigfoot. And on cue, when I mention a wood knock, there is a real wood knock off in the woods, which tells me that something paranormal was listening to our conversation. It was crazy.
But
Yeah.
Diane said that canyon's dead now.
Is it really?
She says that group left, but I don't know
Well,
how she would know. But she told me that a couple of years ago that Coldwater was dead.
Hmm.
Well, I don't know.
I
I don't know.
I don't know. I would doubt. I would be skeptical because Coldwater and then the canyon right over the ridge from it, which I call Cowboys Paradise, but I don't know what the real name is. Both of them have always been surefire active areas.
But
Oh,
no,
and you know, for these women, if they camp in Cowboys Paradise, write this down, Mark. If they camp in Cowboys Paradise too, it is a hike to get to, but it's not crazy. Like it is like a mile. It's a mile of walking uphill. but
I'm not sure they want to do that. I don't know, but all right.
yeah, maybe they wouldn't want it. Okay, all right,
Yeah.
all right.
There's no new stuff up in Cowboys Cowboys Paradise, by the way. I was just up there recently.
It's all the same.
It's all the same. I don't think in the last maybe 3 or 4 years I've seen anything new up there.
I took my son up to Coldwater a couple of years ago, and I stepped on. I nudged a rock, and apparently there was a ground wasp hive underneath it or something. We both got stung about 30 times. It was
no.
Oh. Well, they got a fence across that sucker now. You got to climb over the fence.
Oh, yeah, you got to go around. Yeah, lots of people that come in don't really want to hike for a long time, so you got to think about where to take them. But yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
I made a list of what everybody said, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 places possibly.
Yeah.
So that'll keep
Rock
us busy.
Canyon would be another good one. I mean, that one's pretty easy to get to. Not a ton of hiking.
Oh yeah.
That's true. You could just walk in there where that sheep camp is. That's level. It's only a half a mile walk to the sheep camp.
Yeah, exactly. You guys want to hear a weird story from that place? Last time me and Reo were up there, we remember those two. We were up with you, Rex, and I think you went back for some reason. You didn't go with us up to Rock Canyon, but we were with 2 other guys that were brothers. Remember them, Reo?
Yeah.
And one of the guys, like he was walking kind of with a limp, like he'd had surgery before. Hey, why did I get a thumbs down, Reo?
No, I didn't thumbs down you.
Oh, never mind.
That's weird. No, he was home.
Should I remove him from the chat? No, I was joking. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, we were walking, and one of these guys was having a really tough time. Like he'd had surgery on his foot, and like I was like he was not getting up over the logs sometimes that we were going through, and like I was getting worried of how we were going to get him out there. And we like came up. There's this meadow with like all these down trees that were perfect to sit on, and we had this like most amazing view of the mountains poking out from the clouds. Like it was just the most picturesque place I've ever been.
It was a spiritual experience.
Yeah, it was. And you know what was cool about that is this guy that was having the problem with his foot. He sat down, and we just sat there and like absorbed it all for at least a half an hour and didn't really say anything. And as soon as he got up, like he was healed. Like he could walk just fine after that. And the interesting thing was, I've talked to him.
He said it too. He's like, guys, I'm healed. I'm healed.
I know. And this is the weird thing. Like he's always had problems with that foot his whole life. Like he lives 2 houses away from me. Like we're like really good friends. And I just talked to him not too long ago about it. And he said that the pain in his foot has never come back since then.
Weird. Wow.
Isn't that so cool?
Maybe Dr. Johnson was up there.
Yeah, it was Dr. Johnson.
It's one of his
giving him
Sasquatch
a groin massage. A non-sexual groin massage.
Oh.
Healing.
No, but yeah, that was such a beautiful experience. I have the spatula. I found a metal spatula in the woods, and it's still my favorite spatula.
What?
Yeah, it was actually in that same meadow that I think that I found the spatula. But yeah, it was such a, we were talking about like hard things that we were going through in life. And then we come out of the woods, and it was beautiful woods. We had traveled through really dark woods. It kind of looked like Oregon because there's a river, a waterfall at one point, and we're like, oh my gosh, let's come back. And then all of a sudden the woods part, and you can see just like do you guys know Thomas Kincaid? Thomas Kincaid he's a painter. And he does like, he's a LDS. He does you see his paintings in LDS bookstores, and he paints light, and he paints fires, and he paints lamplight like really beautifully, so it looks like real light. And it just looked like I was walking into a Thomas Kincaid painting, because you have Mount Timpanogos, which is just glorious. Wait, was that Mount Timpanogos?
No, it wasn't Timpanogos.
It was whatever mountain
Rock
that
Canyon. This is still Rock Canyon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, such a great place. But yeah, we were just awestruck by the beauty. What a beautiful evening. Yeah, that was great.
Well, it's amazing what they're bringing up there to the cabin. They brought in a big trailer hitch, and they've got some bungee cords hanging around. They've got a couple of rust cans full of snails, and one or two mock fireplaces. And then there's a whole utensil set of fireplace implements like the brush and the big shovel that's brought in there. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff brought in that wallow. And the kids
Right.
didn't, and the kids haven't brought them in. I mean, they're my sister's grandkids. They're always playing down there all the time. It's a strange place.
And that would not be hard to camp in that place. Would not be hard at all. So
But you
Is
got
it
that creek
live
right there.
snails or are they dead snail shells? Just curious.
Those little small snail shells, but
Okay.
I don't know where they came from, but the kids didn't bring them in there.
Mhm.
But it'd be hard to hear anything because you got that rumbling creek right there next to it, so you couldn't really hear anything. If anything walked in, you probably wouldn't hear it unless it was right on top of you.
we would just camp we'd sleep on the other side of that hill, so we're not by the creek.
Yeah, just up on the patio there by the cabin. That's where Nathan and his brother slept.
Yeah, that's
They
right.
were right below, that patio below the cabin.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the sheep that collapsed, little tiny sheep cabin?
No, it's not. It's a family cabin at Mill Creek Canyon.
Oh, so, okay, sorry. I'm thinking of a different place. Okay,
We
you're
switched
all the stuff.
locations.
That's where all the stuff's coming and going, and then the structures are like torn down, then moved over here. And there was one that had rope bark strips tying stuff together. Well, this last summer, that whole thing disappeared, and they built another one.
You need to put a camera out there, but I bet the second you do, all the activity will cease until you take it away.
But the grandkids are playing down there all the time. There's 3 or 4 of my sister's grandkids that love playing down there.
Cool.
Well, I better put my kids to bed, guys.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing.
That's
Okay.
my
Yeah,
bedtime.
we've gone a couple hours, so. Well,
Let's do this
thanks.
again. This was fun.
Good meeting of the
Yeah, I
minds.
want to go that Frog Wallow place you're talking about, and also that La Plata that Rio was talking about.
Oh,
Yeah, I'd like
the
to
La
go to
Plata,
that
I'll
one
tell you the
too.
ones that are going to be the scary ones to do. The back of Coldwater Canyon, doing that alone. We should create some sort of Bigfoot challenge for people with like different campouts that they have to do to show how brave they are. But camping in the back of Coldwater Canyon is 1 feat of strength. The other one that's going to be scary is the La Plata one because the woods are so dark and thick, and it's so deep in the woods that is black flies everywhere. So the black flies make it hard to camp back there, but very squatchy, lots of Bigfoot interaction for sure, and scary. So those ones are going to be the ones to be scared of at night. But the rest, I would imagine that Sasquatch Pond would also be scary at night. I've never really been there in the dark, but that's kind of one of those places that's remote. And if something started happening, you wouldn't be able to just run to your car or anything. So that's potentially scary.
So La Plata is up near Porcupine Lake.
I can show you right on a map in La Plata where
If you go
should
way up past Timpanuki, the road there, kind of to the end of it almost, and then
No, he's talking. Okay, that's Sasquatch Pond. Rex is talking about Sasquatch Pond, but La Plata is up.
Oh,
yes,
La
by
Plata,
Porcupine.
yeah. Oh, okay, I know where.
Yeah, La Plata is up by Porcupine, Mark, and you can call me later, and I can send you all the information on it.
Well, there's on that Cache Valley Bigfoot guy, Marshall. He's written a couple books about experiences up there around Cache Valley, and I bought both the books last month. There isn't much to them, but 2 or 3 are from up there around that Porcupine Lake area. In the wintertime, a couple of times they were snowshoeing in there, and they saw one.
Yeah.
On that road going over. They had the gate closed, you can
Yeah.
go over the top.
If you go up there, let me know. I'll come along too.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thanks,
Nice
Rex.
talking to you.
Yeah,
good talking to you guys.
Okay,
this was
I'll
fun.
talk to you guys later.
All
Okay,
right.
I'll see you guys later.
See you
Bye.
guys.
Bye.